We have hope right now. This is brand new. It took me 10 years to get Femicide through FDA. Huge clinical trial. I always say there would be 10-year-olds running around had this not had so many hurdles on every front. There is a choice now that didn't exist for the last 50 years. So don't give up. It's hard. Find people around you to support you. You are absolutely not alone.
Can we do it?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Influential Women. Here we empower, connect, and inspire women who are leading, creating, and redefining what is possible. I'm your host, Jodie O'Brien, and today we are joined by Kathy Lee-Sepsick. She's the president and CEO of Femicys, a medical technology company she founded in February of 2004. What's remarkable about Kathy's career is the breadth of her impact. She holds over 200 global patents for Femicys products and candidates. With a bachelor's degree in biochem and an MBA from Rutgers University, Kathy has built a career on innovation, strategic thinking, and solving some of women's most pressing health challenges. But her real impact, her company has developed a non-surgical permanent birth control solution and an infertility treatment that's transforming women's reproductive anatomy and choices. And in an industry where women's health has historically been underfunded and overlooked, Kathy has built a company that puts women at the center. This is a conversation. It's about science, yes, but it's also about hope, persistence, and what it means to build solutions that touch something as personal as life itself. Kathy, welcome. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So you've spent nearly 3 decades in the medical technology industry, and you hold over 200 global patents. So walk us through how you built that expertise and what drew you to medtech, and what did you learn from all those early roles at those previous companies?
I thought with a biochemistry degree that I would actually work in pharmaceuticals. That would be a natural progression for me. And I had my first taste of med tech and, dealing with products and being able to influence the way they look and how they feel and how they're adapted for different needs. And it was so exhilarating. And then I knew for sure that that's the direction I wanted to take. And so I doubled down on that. I exposed myself to all aspects of bringing new technology, whether it be on the product development side, working with engineers, thinking about the business side of it, how do you address the needs and bring the right solutions to patients, and then looking at the regulatory pieces of it and how do you get it through and actually on the market beyond just the development side. So I learned a lot. I put myself out there. I went into meetings I wasn't actually invited to, and I just made myself present and learned and learned and learned. And then when I felt I was really ready to take on the responsibility of starting a company and all that that brings, I founded Femicys.
I love that. Well, by 2004, you had already built credibility and success in medical technology. So what problem were you seeing that compelled you to leave the positions and really start Femicys and focus on women's reproductive health?
So I had a lot of exposure to various different specialties within healthcare. I focused in cardiovascular, peripheral disease, neurovascular diseases, orthopedics. And in it, as I was progressing in my career and getting older, and I had 2 children at the time, I realized that women's health did not in any way get the kind of attention any of these other specialties were getting. It lacked innovation. There was no impact on the bigger issues. There were innovation on, I'm not saying innovation is bad in any realm, but sometimes just minor modifications to me weren't disruptive enough. And I realized then in my own personal journey that I didn't have options. When I looked at how do I control my risk for pregnancy, I was unwilling to take the risk of surgery, and I didn't want incisions, and I didn't think that was okay, that women only had that type of option really available to them. And I thought with my background and my passion for it, I could make a difference, and a difference that would last a really long time. So I took the plunge.
That's amazing. So women's health, particularly reproductive health, has been historically underfunded by investors. Why do you think that is? And how did that landscape shape your mission for this company?
I'm often asked this question, and it's tricky because everyone acknowledges that 51% of our population is women. So clearly, there's a demand when the majority of our population actually is female. But on the flip side, when we look at what gets investors excited, it's a return on their investment. It's looking at innovations and saying, I've had a return. I've brought something new to the market. And in other areas of medicine, you see so much innovation. Take cardiovascular, for example. As soon as you put something out there, there's something better coming right along behind it. So you have a window that something's going to be available in it and best of market or best in class. In women's health, you don't see that. And so it's a chronic issue. It's chicken and egg. If you don't have enough innovation, you don't have enough investors funding it. If you don't have enough funding, you don't have enough innovation. So unfortunately, women's health has very much suffered from this. It's also an area where we've seen very glorious failures. And when there's failures of that magnitude, investors shy away. Investors like to invest in what they know. It's the other part of it. Most of the investors are men. So the male issues or something that's more generic, not so female focused, is something that they're comfortable and accustomed to reviewing. So I think, there's a lot of commentary around the facts. People understand that it's underfunded. People understand women deserve better options. Everyone's saying the right things. We just need people stepping up and actually doing it.
So many women struggle with infertility and they struggle quietly. And it can feel isolating. It can feel shame filled. You can feel invisible. But from your perspective, what do people misunderstand, do you think, about the emotional toll of infertility?
Yeah, I mean, it used to be silent, right? People would struggle with infertility and no one talked about it. It was kind of taboo. The other thing was it's almost always thought to be a woman's problem. Up until more recently, we now know that 50% of the contributing factor is the male. And no one really put as much credence on that. They didn't talk about the low sperm counts that we see. There's a sperm count of over 50% for men in every age category in every country around the world. So it's not genetic. There's a lot of theories as to what it could be. So if that's the case and 50% of the problem is the male, this is a male female issue. And so I think knowing and having that discussed, it's more recent. People are now feeling more comfortable and knowing that they're not alone. People are waiting, women are waiting longer to have their children. So there are more people struggling than not. Unfortunately, when you look at the combination of those two factors, if there's declining sperm counts and we see people in their 20s struggling with infertility when we always thought the cliff was approaching 40. It's not the case any longer. So it's really one of the reasons when advanced technology for non-surgical permanent birth control in our product called FemBlock that I decided I'm going to tackle the other end of the spectrum. Nothing has been new for over 50 years. And all we have is really IVF, which is expensive. And most women don't go, not accessible. So, for all those reasons, I think it's been complicated because people don't want to talk about it and their options aren't great. And they're super expensive for them to even consider.
Makes these two products that you all have created different than what's available on the market today?
So and I'm the inventor of the technologies, the patent walls behind me there. What I set out to do is find the safest way to deliver materials into the fallopian tubes. In the case of FemBlock, I'm delivering a proprietary polymer that we created to create the response I'm looking for there. For the case of infertility treatment, we're delivering sperm directly to where conception occurs. When you have low sperm counts, which is unfortunately the issue in this day and age, it's really important that the journey be specific and cut, and the delivery be right to where it needs to go. It still needs to do its job, but we at least get it to where it needs to be. When you have less to work with, it's harder for sperm to find its way to the right tube. So that's what we've created. It's very different than the initial technology for assisted reproductive care, which is called intrauterine insemination or IUI. In that case, or the turkey baster method, depending on who's talking about it. But in that case, the sperm is just deposited in the uterine cavity. And then when you have less of it, it just has to find its way to the correct tube and then cross over into the tube. We actually do that work for the sperm and put it right there, and it can live up to 72 hours in the tube. So we're just increasing the likelihood of success by bringing it exactly where it needs to be.
I know we spoke about investors and how the majority of investors are male. Raising capital for a women's health company is uniquely challenging. What's that experience been like for you? And what did you have to do differently to convince investors to back Femesis?
I mean, it's a grueling process every step of the way. And women's health just makes it much more challenging. What I ended up doing was amassing support from high net worth individuals, family offices, really the groups that invest in the more traditional venture capital model. I went kind of direct to the source, and they're the decision makers. So they can make the decision to go outside of the box and the norm of what everyone else is investing in. What's the hot thing to invest in now? Let's say it's oncology or drug delivery, and everyone's investing there. They can say, look, this is my money. I'm going to make a bet. I'm going to invest in something that I feel is important and it's mission driven. And so we've been able to attract some really, really wonderful investors that have supported the company along the way, and some newer investors that are new to the story in the last, couple of years. But that's the route I had to take. And it means persistence, and it means fundraising pretty consistently, because traditional funding for women's health is so sparse that you do more with less for me, and women's health in general. But that's how I've sustained 22 years, and how I continue to sustain.
And you're a rock star because of it. Amazing. So, when you're creating something that affects women's bodies and their futures, the stakes are incredibly high. How has your focus on safety and strong clinical trials guided the way that you move these products forward?
I mean, for our products specifically, safety is paramount. It is what drives every aspect of the development process. And myself as a woman looked at that critically. As the inventor, I developed these products in a way that I knew that the masses could perform them. That's step one. You have to align your treatments and specialties and solutions to the ultimate healthcare provider. In the case of my infertility product called Femicide, as an example, in our clinical trials, 25% of the products were placed during the procedures by nurses. We're going to see this trend continue. So when I developed this technology, I developed it so that it could be done by those advanced practice providers. Looking at safety, I mean, you back it by clinical trials. That's just the way it is. And we have spent many, many millions of dollars supporting multi-center prospective pivotal trials. As an example, on the infertility product line, there were no clinical trials for IUI catheters and devices. They never existed. So people are claiming success rates based on small data sets, based on looking backwards. And when you look backwards, you can pick anything you want to report on. I don't do that because my studies are prospective. They're heavily regulated. They're under FDA approval. And so when we look at enrolling patients, are done under strict guidelines. And so when you have the data come to bear, you can trust it in a different way because it's run differently. The same thing is the case on my permanent birth control product. Tubal sterilization, surgical sterilization, has been around since the late 1800s. There's only two retrospective studies that have ever looked at actually how effective it is and what the risk profile is. There is no prospective data because it's been around centuries. So looking at what we've done with FemBlock, all of our studies have been prospective. And that's important when you're looking at good clinical trial data. Again, safety above all else. So what I'll point out is in both of my product categories, it's elective. So it's one of the reasons the market is so large. It addresses so many people because they're not sick. Some call infertility a disease and a sickness, but in essence, they're not truly sick when you think about the categories of sickness. No one has cancer, heart disease, they may have other compounding issues, but they're electing birth control. They're electing to go through an infertility treatment to have a baby. So safety is critical. And what we found in our studies, because the products were designed properly, is we didn't see any serious adverse events. And that's pretty uncommon for women's health. We saw what you would always expect when you're coming through into the uterus, a little bit of spotting, a little bit of cramping, and we saw that consistently across the products. So we're really excited that we're one, never going to hurt anyone, and we're bringing hope and options to women.
Femblock and Femicide are moving towards commercialization. What does the rollout plan look like, and what unique challenges do women owned businesses face in bringing these innovative solutions to the market for female patients?
So we are definitely a global company. So we have approval for Femblock in Europe right now, Europe, the UK, and New Zealand, and we're amassing other country approvals as we run our final trial to support approval in the US for Femblock. So that commercialization effort is very different from our Femicide line. For Femblock, we're partnering. Every country has different requirements. We want native speaking partners and that have other GYN products so they can support this product appropriately. And so we support our partners who then support their clinicians. Domestically here in the US, Femicide has worldwide approval in Europe as well as the US and Israel and other countries. Canada. And so we look in the US, we're utilizing a direct sales force. And we are now moving our infertility lines. Very exciting because it's happening right now. So on your podcast, I'm announcing it. We are moving infertility treatment to the GYN, to the primary caregiver. Right now, IVF, which is the primary modality for someone looking for infertility treatment, albeit very small numbers of women get there or couples get there for that level of treatment because it's so expensive, it's done at an infertility center. There's not that many infertility centers in this country, about 500. Great pockets of the country that don't even have an infertility center where women have to drive hours and hours to get care. And so we're looking at the lowest cost, the safest method, easily accessible, so people can come off the sidelines and give a best in class shot at having a baby and having their family. And so we are just starting that process. What we as a company had to do was figure out how to bring forward handling the sperm. So we also, it's called FemSperm, and we are bringing that forward so that the GYNs can attend to their patients' needs. And ultimately, some of these patients may not get pregnant on Femicide. But at least they know their GYN did everything they could before they consider the big step to an IVF center. So we're really excited, and this will open up the market to the 10 million women that are struggling and most likely will never go to an IVF center.
Congratulations. That is huge. And I know that you know how many women you're helping, how many women, who have struggled with the pain of not being able to have a child and being frustrated. So, man, what an accomplishment. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Well, you've spent 30 years, start over. You've spent 30 years in a male dominated industry and built a company focused on women's reproductive autonomy.
I mean, on the innovative side, I think there's no better person than a woman to create a women's health product. And we don't see that. That's just not generally what happens. And most women's health companies are run by male CEOs. And so I think that's a really important part of what makes us so unique and different. I belabored over every aspect of these products to ensure it was something I would do, it's something I would have my two daughters do. And so there's so much care. And I brought that forward, and I'm not shy about it. I'm a woman that created something for women, and I'm really proud of that. As far as being surrounded by men and the leadership aspect, I think it's really important for women to step forward and be confident. You are a woman. There's no excuses for that. It's a wonderful thing. And we have different perspective. And as long as you're knowledgeable and you have your level of expertise that you're bringing to the table, I have found, even though generally I'm the only woman in the room on many occasions, I don't even feel like there's even a difference, frankly. So I think that women do bring different perspectives. We're going to always look at things a little bit differently, certainly about our own bodies. And so I think you just do it. You just get it done. And I don't fixate on it. But from a leadership standpoint, I don't think there's a male approach and a female approach. I'm pretty direct. Some men are direct, some men aren't direct. I think it's finding your own leadership style, gender irrelevant, and being who you are and just going for it. But that's how I look at it, or at least how I've approached it.
At Influential Women, we believe that influence is about changing lives, and your work has the potential to really help create life itself. And so that's extraordinary in its own right. But when you think about the women holding babies who have not existed, who will not have existed without these innovations, what does that mean to you?
It means everything. This is a really hard job that I took on, and it's been 22 years, and it's been hard on so many fronts. And I go in the field a lot. I try to be inconspicuous. I go out there, I put my scrubs on just like my team does, and I'm out there, I'm in the field, I hear the stories. Nothing moves me more than to see the success, whether it be making a baby or helping somebody deal with their contraceptive needs on both sides of the spectrum. It's why I started this company. It's why people have joined the mission and joined the company to progress this. But it's everything, to know that we're making families complete. I'm a mom first and foremost. I love being a mom. When I started the company, my girls were 7 and 4. And I was blessed to be able to have them. For anyone out there that wants to have a child, this is why I did this. I want to give you that chance because it's so expensive to go to an infertility center. And I know I would have never done that. It just, it's expensive. Life is expensive. But to be able to do this and to do it affordably and to try, at least you'll have no regrets. And I know I've brought you the best technology I could have brought to help you do that.
Knowing what you know now, what would you say to somebody who's really struggling with that infertility journey and who feels exhausted and who feels defeated? What would you want them to hear?
Hope. We have hope right now. This is brand new. It took me 10 years to get Femicide through FDA. Huge clinical trial. It was hard. I always say there would be 10-year-olds running around had this not had so many hurdles on every front. There is a choice now that didn't exist for the last 50 years. So don't give up. It's hard. Find people around you to support you. You are absolutely not alone. I can't even begin to tell how many stories I have had the privilege to hear, but this is what we're here and now being able to bring forward for people to consider in their overall choices. Choice is always yours, but at least be at peace, at least consider the options that are available and then fight for it. Be your own advocate. When you're ready to stop, that's when you're ready. It's not anyone else's decision, and I wish anyone who's going through this all the very best luck because it's hard. I know how I know so.
There's young girls out there who are writing ideas in notebooks and they may not really understand the leap to an idea, from an idea to an invention, and how it is possible. So, what would you tell a little girl who has an idea about, that could change the world, but maybe doesn't have the confidence yet to spend the 22 years to make it come to fruition? What would you say?
I'd say that in order to get where I am right now, to make it a reality, to bring it to patients, particularly if we're talking healthcare ideas, it's not just about the idea. It's about making sure that your idea sees the end of light. So you have to not skip steps, do the work. Oftentimes I talk to people and they want to go from 1 to 50. Like you have to do the time and learn. Your idea may be great, which is wonderful because we need all these good ideas, but good ideas to come to fruition need to be backed by expertise. And so you can gain that expertise by doing the work. And what I always find is people want to help people. I mentor people. I just spoke to students today. We want people that are more experienced now want to give back. So you can learn and accelerate your learning, but take your idea. And if you really, really want to make it something, then do the time, do the work, and keep pushing.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. Your work through Femesis isn't just about business, it's about expanding the choices and autonomy available to millions of women. And you can just hear your heart in all of this, and that's impact. So, to our listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, share it with a woman who's building something innovative, leading in technical fields, or fighting for women's health and agency. Each and every story strengthens the visibility of women in leadership and impact everywhere. So until next time, I'm Jodie O'Brien, and this was Influential Women. Keep showing up, keep innovating, and keep building solutions that matter. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you, Jodie.
Can we do it?